Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start with a new topic, primate adaptations and primate behavior. So, before proceeding on to this topic, let's have a brief look at what we have learned so far in the previous chapter. So, the previous chapter it talked about primate taxonomy, which is classification of primate group, and primate by the definition, they belong to mammalian group, which includes monkeys, apes, lemurs, lorises, and they are characterized by some similarities in physiological and behavioral features. So, such behavior such as body hair, long gestation period, presence of mammary glands, having heterodonty or unspecialized teeth, then the ability to maintain a constant body temperature, such as which is known as endothermy or homeothermy, having a complex brain and behavioral and learning flexibility. So that was that, and then one of the characteristic of primate that they are not as specialized as many mammals. You may talk about ungulates such as cattle, many carnivores. So all of them, all the other mammalian species, they have they carved a specialized niche for them. Such as if you talk about lion, so lion is more like a carnivore that sits at the apex of food chain and balances a particular ecosystem. When you talk about cattle, so cattle, particularly their physiological and behavioral pattern, it is more about herbivory, which is which means eating grasses, vegetation, and then providing milk and hides. But mammals, by their physiological characteristic, they are quite generalized. And even if you do not um, understand this in behavioral pattern, you can compare this with their physiological differences. So this is a hoof of a horse, whereas you can see the hand of two primate species, human and chimpanzee. And now you can see the differences. They have digits, they have hooves, whereas we have fingers, they have nails and claws, whereas they have claws, where we have nails. So, all in all, it is about the specialization is not about getting up an occupation or specializing in a particular activity. This is about physiological specialization, which means they have a particular physiology which isn't specific for a wide range of motions. In other words, horses and cattle, and you can take example of all the ungulates. All of them, they have constraint, they have limitation in their locomotion. They can only walk in one type of locomotion, one type of motion, whereas our generalized features and the generalized physiology of all the primates, we can make a lot of motions. We can move our shoulders, we can leap, we can jump, we can branchiate, and we can hop, we can sit on our hinds, and the same is not possible in other mammalian species. You can take a simple examination of erect posture. So all the primate species, they can walk on their hind legs up to certain extent, but the other mammalian species, whether it is with a dog, a horse, lion, zebra, all other mammalian species, they could not perform this action. So the I guess this example, it fits the bill. You can explain it this way, that most of the primate, they can walk upright, while most of the other mammalian species, they could not. Then the differences in characteristic, which are anatomical, which means physiological. So we have a tendency towards erect posture, And all primates show this tendency up to some degree, whereas this is missing in other mammalian species. Then we have a generalized limb structure, which allow primates to practice numerous forms of locomotion. Then we have clavicle, collarbones, we have shoulder joints, and because of this hip and shoulder morphology, we can uh, execute a wide range of limb movements and functions, which means we can stretch our hands, and we can stretch our hand up to 120, 130 degree, even up to 180 degree. And we can brachiate, which means we can hop onto branches, we can hold branches, we can leap from one branch, one tree to another. Then we have prehensile hands, and prehensile means to manipulate objects. Especially if you want to understand this in a simple term, we can grip objects. Now, when you take the same example, when you compare it with the prehensibility of other mammalian species, and you can see the differences here. A horse cannot grip a pen, but a chimpanzee can, and an orangutan can, a gibbon can. So most of the primate species, they have precision grip, and this precision grip, in general, it means we have hands by which we can manipulate objects more skillfully than any other species. Then we have 5 digits on hand and feet. We have an opposable thumb, which means that our thumb and our first finger, both of them, they can hold an object. It's like holding a pen. This illustration here, this both of them, they are example of opposability of hand. So this is another such characteristic. Then we have nails instead of claws. We have tactile pads that are enriched with sensory nerve fibers. We have tactile pads, means we have palm and we have soles of feet. Then because of our dietary generalization, we eat a wide assortment of foods, for which we are called omnivores, which means we eat quite in comprehensive manner, and because of that, we do not have any specialized teeth. Let's compare this with any other mammalian species, such as lion. So lion, most of them are not most of them, all of them. Lions are specialized in their diet, that they are carnivores. They eat flesh, for which they need teeth, which can we need they need incisors, they need canines, which can make a make a dent in flesh of other animals. They can tear it. So because of which their teeth is specialized, whereas we have a generalized diet, so our dentition, our teeth structure, it is also generalized. Then primates, mostly diurnal, they rely more on vision and less on olfaction. And we have a color vision or stereoscopic vision, which helps us in seeing up to certain depth. So stereoscopic, which itself mean that we can see, because first we have an erect posture. Just compare this with the posture of other mammalian species, which are on four. So, well, I am not good at diagrams, but you can see here. Now, this is the way any other mammalian species is going to see the world, and this is the way a human is going to see, a primate is going to see. So this erect posture, it provides us a wide field range to see objects, and this particular ability, it has also provided the scope for the brain uh, to become complex, because earlier the information available to the species, the members that walked on all four, it was very limited. So their brain did not have any incentive to grow, to become complex. But uh, since most of the primate species, including earlier human, They had this ability to walk upright, which gave them certain height, and this height it was also acted as a platform, a podium upon which to see up to certain distance. So this enhanced the amount of information that could be processed, and that coupled with the placing of eyes in front, it also gave an overlapping field of vision. This overlapping field of vision, which you can see either via the way light propagates, light travels in a linear way, or via the lenses, especially the convex lenses function. So in whichever way you want to say it, whenever light travels through a lens, it is going to make the image on the other side. And this image, coupled with the tendency of light to travel in one direction only, that is in linear, in a straight line, it helps in all the primate species to provide a triangular or stereoscopic vision, which is nothing but if you can stand up, if you can see at certain depth, then this field of vision it will be wider than what other mammalian species have. And this overlapping visual field it is known as binocular vision, which means to vision overlapping vision from two eyes. And again, when we had more information, then it gave incentive to brain to become complex. Then the neocortex, the area that is uh, associated with processing of information, it increased in size, and that's why primates they have the most complex brain structure in among all these species. Then when we started relying more on vision, then it decreased our reliance on sense of smell or olfaction, which helped in the reduction in size of olfactory structure in brain, coupled with decrease in size of snout or muzzle. So we gradually started having a flat face because olfaction was not necessary for any purpose, whether it was for finding mates, whether for foraging the surrounding, perceiving the threat, looking for food, or any recreational activity. For all those purposes, now our reliance is shifted from nose to our eyes. And this gave further incentive to our brain to reduce the area that was the area that earlier occupied a certain structure in our brain. That area it got reduced, and the same place it was given to the vision information centers of the brain. Then these sensory modalities they also increase. Now some uh, behavioral pattern that we have a fetal nourishment, long period of gestation, reduced number of offspring, delayed maturation, and I have explained all of them. And even if something is missing, if something you find that has not been explained properly, you can ask me in comment section. And now we are coming to the next topic, primate adaptation. So this primate adaptation is going to start with the evolutionary factors that helped in evolving all the factors that I have mentioned here. And this adaptation will include both the physiological as well as the behavioral pattern. So traditionally, it was believed that the characteristic that has been shared by primates were a result of an adaptation to arboreal living. Arboreal means to live on trees because we know most of the primate species, the oldest stock, both old and new world, they were species of monkeys, and we know that uh, even in the present time, most of the monkey they live on trees. So earlier it was believed that because of our arboreal way of living, we had those characteristics that distinguish us from other mammalian species. And even at the time, when other mammals were adapting to various ground niches, or primate, they found adapted niche in the tree. Then, throughout the course of evolution, primates they found food, leaves, seeds, fruits, nuts, insects, and small mammals in the tree themselves. And over time, this dietary shift enhanced a general trend towards omnivory, and this in turn led to retention of generalized dentition that is characteristic of primate. So overall, the meaning of this passage, which in simple, it means that our ancestor, the ancestor of all primate stock, they were adapted to living in trees, the arboreal living, and it was a tree that provided them everything. It provided them all the sources of food, seeds, fruit, nuts, insects, and because of that, we first we generally move toward omnivory. That is a characteristic of primate, and then this omnivory it led to a generalized dentition structure, which is also a characteristic of most primate. Then the tree living structure or the tree living lifestyle, it also increased our reliance on vision coupled with prehensile hands, which means grasping hands. So you can, if you ever come across any problem, especially regarding explanation that how to visualize such thing, then you should define the visuals in contemporary species of primates. Contemporary species such as apes, chimpanzees, orangutan, whichever monkey species live in your surrounding, and that visualization will help you getting a grip on the particular topic, because I have felt this, and that's why I chose to start with start teaching with the prior pictures, because I guess whenever you teach and whenever students are taught, they usually visualize certain thing. A picture, a motion picture, a film, a movie, it goes around in their mind. Now, I don't know what goes in in the minds of students, and students do not corroborate that the movie that is going in your mind in their mind is right, if it is the actual movie. And there comes the trouble, there comes the problem. Their line of thought may be right according to them, but the actual picture, the what actually should be there, uh, that may create problem in understanding. So my best advice is to find the visuals of contemporary apes, including monkeys. You can find those uh, behavioral video on YouTube or any other channel, any social media platform. So here, the arboreal living, it started giving them more reliance on vision, because it is the ground where you need your olfaction um, up to a greater extent. But when you are living on trees, then first uh, you have been given an artificial extension by the nature, because most of the when this ground platform, most of the species, they are walking on their four, they are living on the ground, and you have been naturally giving an extension, an erection, and a height, a platform by which you can see longer than they could see in collective manner. So here lies the advantage. But the downside is that the other mammalian species that that walked on four, they had a precision in terms of olfaction. Their senses, their information center, it knows what is this, what smell stand for what, which smell is for mating, which smell is for threat, which smell uh, is is a sign of a potential prey species. While on the other hand, The tree-living primate species, they did miss this thing. So this arboreal hypothesis, it provided a general outline of evolution of primate characteristic, which provided in a complex three-dimensional environment with uncertain footholds, acute color vision, and depth perception was extremely beneficial for evolution of primate stock. Then, an alternative to this arboreal hypothesis is based on the fact that animals such as squirrel are also arboreal, yet they have not evolved primate-like adaptations such as prehensile hands or forward-facing eyes, which is a correct objection. You can see a squirrel here. Now, a squirrel, it also lives on trees, but it does not have the forward facing eyes. The eyes are situated on the sideways, and the squirrel species, it has not evolved the characteristic, the physical characteristic that are present in the primate species. But then there are visual predators such as cats and owls that do have forward facing eyes. So um, herein lies the platform, the fuel for another hypothesis. So, the forward facing eyes, which facilitate binocular vision, grasping hands and feet, and the presence of nails instead of claws may not have come about solely as an adaptive advantage in a purely arboreal setting. So, the explanation given here is that the primate characteristic which stand primate different from other species such as binocular vision, prehensile hands, and presence of nails, they were not a result of living on trees. They were not a result of arboreal living. And here comes the other hypothesis that they may have been a hallmark of an arboreal visual predator. So this visual predation hypothesis argues that early primate may first have adapted to shrubby forest undergrowth and the lowest tiers of forest canopy, where they hunted insects and other small prey. So, in short, here comes the second hypothesis, which is the visual predation hypothesis. So, it says that all the features, binocular vision, presence of nails, prehensile hands, firm grip, and generalized dentition, all of them, they are characteristic of an arboreal visual predator. Arboreal visual predator, and as the name suggests, this term, this nomenclature, it is talking about those species that live on trees and they predate, they kill their, they find their prey, they find their food by acute sense of vision. So this hypothesis argues that most of the early primate, they have adapted to shrubby forest undergrowth, and then they gradually, when they found insects, small prey, including all the tree and foliage tubers, and this ecological niche, it provided them nutrition and time to survive and evolve. Then Sussman, he suggested that the basic primate traits were developed in conjunction with other major evolutionary occurrence, the appearance of flowering plants, which began around 140 million years ago. So, flowering plants provide numerous resources for primates, including nectar, seeds, and fruit. So, this is the third hypothesis, which is based on angiosperms, flowering plants. So this hypothesis says that so the time when the early primate stock arrived on Earth and they started evolving, this evolution, it was certainly coincided with the evolution of angiosperms, flowering species, and the much needed nutrition, because evolution of any species, whether it is a herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, all of them, the first thing they need is food. So if they can get this food, if they can get this nutrition from whichever source it is, then this nutrition is going to provide them a means to survive. And if they can survive, then the second step, reproduction. So if they can survive, they will reproduce. If they reproduce and then they can ensure survival of their offspring, then any particular species is going to evolve. This is how evolution works. So the evolution of angiosperm, it provided evolution of flowering plant provided various nutritional sources such as nectar, seeds, fruits, and Sussman argues that since visual predation isn't common among modern primates, so forward facing eyes, prehensile hand, omnivory, generalized dentition, stereoscopic vision, depth perception, color vision, they may have arisen in response to demand for fine visual and tactile discrimination. So, this is the third hypothesis. And certainly, this type of discrimination is necessary when feeding on small foods such as fruits, berries, and seeds among branches and stem. So, it is more about having a diversity, having a variety of color vision. And since angiosperm, they flower out in multiple color, in vivid color. So, this vividity, it certainly needed someone who can see in multiple colors. So this is another hypothesis, and all these hypotheses are mutually exclusive. So um, all in all, by looking at the three hypotheses, we can certainly assume that the primate stock, it might have evolved, it might have arose, prospered, survived, and proliferated because the combination of all the three hypotheses. Now, let's have a look at geographical distribution and habitats. Well, I'm going to mark out this next video in a different timeline so that you will have lectures and videos of small time frames. So, thank you very much.